Hello, everybody. It's me, Geoff Keighley. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone's had a good day watching the Xbox Bethesda briefing. I was just there. I just got back home, and I was like, yeah, let me pop on and answer some questions here on Twitch and YouTube about all things Summer Game Fest. So if you guys have questions, you can drop them into the Twitch chat or the YouTube chat, and we'll try and bring them up. But I just got back and thought Xbox Bethesda did a great job today. Great press conference with lots of cool games, lots of gameplay, as they said. So we got to see a first look at Starfield and Redfall and tons of other games across that press conference. And, of course, big announcement that Hideo Kojima is going to be teaming up with Xbox for a brand new game, which is very exciting. So I'm curious to learn more about that like you guys are. And, yeah, just really wanted to take questions and talk about the experience of Summer Game Fest. I've been busy, obviously, working on my show that was live on Thursday. We can talk about that if you guys have questions. I'm sure you do, on the Summer Game Fest show that we did on Thursday. And then we can talk about the State of Play that happened the week before. We can talk about our Play Days, which is our event we did with media and influencers playing games like Street Fighter 6 and Sonic Frontiers and many other titles as well. So I'm excited about that. And then I was just at Bethesda and Xbox, as I said, came home, and frankly, I'm getting ready to go on vacation. But I'm excited to be here to chat with you guys about all things. So yeah, let's just get into some questions and just talk what's on your mind. I can talk a little more freely about what was announced and what wasn't announced and what people thought of things. So I'm going to turn on the fancy featured chat widget here, which is that. And we're going to jump right into the chat here and see what you guys, what questions you have about all things Summer Game Fest. So let's see what the internet has to say. And if you guys haven't graded the Xbox Bethesda briefing, you can head to my Twitter. We got a poll up there with a grade. The State of Play got an A. I think my show got a C from you guys. And Xbox Bethesda, I think, is trending towards an A as well. Last I checked, it was like 39% A, 33% B. But let me actually see what the latest is here. Yeah, 38.9% A, so definitely trending towards an A vote with 67,000 people reporting in. All right, well, let's go to the Twitch chat and see what you guys have to ask me about. And again, I'm happy to kind of talk about anything, about any of the things I saw, my experience today at Xbox and Bethesda. I can tell you a little bit about maybe the Xbox Bethesda experience. We got to go there today as media and sit kind of upstairs in LA, and it was an interesting experience because the briefing in the venue was about 3 minutes ahead of the live stream, which we were running on this channel and everywhere else. So I felt bad. I was almost like feeling like I was spoiling elements of the briefing as I was talking about things. But, you know, the way you tweet, you can't be like, oh, delay all my tweets 3 or 4 minutes, and the next thing is happening. So it was very hard to kind of figure out what to do. And I even held the Kojima thing for a minute or two because I didn't want, I wanted you guys to hopefully experience that on the stream as it happened. So it was really cool, though. It was basically just a chance to watch the briefing with some folks from Xbox. Phil Spencer was there. I saw Aaron Greenberg. I saw Sarah Bond, Matt Booty, Harvey Smith I saw from Arcane, who was showing off Redfall and things like that. So not a lot of game developers in the audience, but definitely some Xbox folks. And there were a lot of fans there as well. So we got to kind of watch it live as part of the experience. And that was it. There wasn't anything playable, so no one played Starfield or Redfall or anything like that. It was very much a chance to just sort of see the announcements and chat about things. So anyways, let me get into it and see what you got, questions you guys have. Drop them in the chat, and let's see what you guys have to say. Let's get started. First question is, any thoughts on the Nintendo Direct? Is that showing up for you guys? Perfect. Okay, good. I don't know. Everyone's wondering what's up with Nintendo, and they're like, is it going to happen Tuesday? What's the plan? I don't know. Nintendo... What I will say is, Nintendo Directs typically only get announced, I don't know, sometimes it's like a day, anywhere from, I think, 24 hours to 72 hours before a normal Direct. And the thing is, in this kind of E3 time period, everyone's used to things getting announced, months in advance or saying things are happening, and Nintendo's been very quiet. So who knows? Maybe we'll wake up tomorrow and they'll be like, Nintendo is, has a presentation focused on, games shipping later this year, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Or we might not. And no, I honestly do not know the answer to that. I don't know what Nintendo's sort of strategy overall is going to be this year. Maybe they'll do that, or maybe they'll do something completely different. So I think we're all just going to have to sort of wait and watch and sort of see. And hopefully they'll do something. The other thing is they might not even do anything this month. They might say, hey, we're going to do a Nintendo Direct in July now or something. So look, we all love the idea of Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo doing events this time of year, but I actually don't know what's going to happen. So we just sort of have to watch. But I think in this new day and age of all these digital events, without a physical component where people have to travel, things can pop up on a day or two's notice. So it doesn't mean that Nintendo's not doing something. They just haven't told us what's happening. Let's see. Next question. Do I miss E3 in-person events? Yeah, although this year we did something in LA called Play Days, which was hundreds of media and influencers got together and we got to play a bunch of games and see each other. So that was nice. I got to go today. I saw Phil Spencer. I just spoke to him for a bunch of time after the briefing. We were catching up on things. So yeah, I love in-person things, and it was nice we got back to that because the first 2 years of Summer Game Fest there really wasn't anything as well. Let's see. When will we see more of Hideo Kojima's Xbox game? Is it a horror game? Yeah, I mean, we did not get any information about the game at all. I think it was just sort of, it's going to be, revolutionary and something you've never seen before, and a completely new game. I think that was clear that it's not, he's not doing another IP. It sounds like it's going to be a new Kojima creation. But yeah, what that is, time will tell, right? And I don't know how far is it into development. Are they, it's sort of been rumored for a while that he might be doing something with Xbox, but is that game in development? Are they just about to start development? Is it coming out soon? I mean, one of the things that I think is not correct is that at the opening of the briefing, Sarah Bond talked about how everything you're going to see is kind of in the next 12 months. I don't think that means we're going to see Hideo's Xbox game in the next 12 months. I assume that was sort of a special thing because with an announcement, we didn't even see the game. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I imagine it'll be a while till we see something on that, but it's exciting that he's working on a project with Xbox, and I'm really kind of can't wait to see what he's going to do. And his mind is so intriguing and interesting. I'm very interested to see kind of what type of game he's going to build. Let's see. Next question is, what happened with EA? I want a new Need for Speed. Yeah, there is another Need for Speed that EA, I think, is doing. I think they've said they're doing a game. They just haven't given any details on it. And EA decided a while ago they weren't going to do their traditional kind of EA Play press conference this year because I don't think they had enough games and things didn't line up. That's the other thing is like Ubisoft's not doing something this year. So as I said publicly, there are fewer kind of third-party press conferences this year just because there's actually, a lack of games coming out this year. It's a lighter year for the industry overall. So I think EA decided, hey, it's better to not do something this year and kind of space things out with individual games as part of it. So there is a Need for Speed that's coming. I just don't know exactly when or when we're going to get to see it. Let's see. Why is this year Summer Game Fest is so whack? They hiding stuff. Are we high? Is it maybe you're talking about it's hiding that people haven't announced their events? I guess there's really not that much coming. The Capcom event that'll happen tomorrow. I believe there'll be some stuff there. There was some stuff today. The PC Gaming Show, which I think probably just wrapped up, was live as well. But yeah, there's not a ton of other things hiding. I mean, there might be one or two more things, but you've basically seen kind of at least the core of it with the PlayStation State of Play, the Xbox event, my show, and a couple other things. There's some things on Friday. They said there's Capcom tomorrow, but yeah, do not expect a ton of other third parties to be doing big press conferences in this time period. It's just not happening this year, but good question. Let's see. What do I think of the Street Fighter 6 leaks or leaks in general? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to talk about leaking because there's lots of rumors online about things, and even some elements of it was it seemed like it leaked that Silksong might be doing something with Xbox on Game Pass, and certainly there was a leak that Kojima would be doing something with Xbox a while ago, right? That there was a rumor of that, and that became true. So I guess there's a difference between leaks and then rumors sometimes and speculation. And leaks suck. I think though it's also a very insular community. One thing I learned is. We did the show, my show on Thursday. You probably saw we announced obviously you probably did see that we announced The Last of Us Part 1, and that had leaked a couple hours earlier. And a lot of people that watched the show said to me afterwards, I didn't realize it leaked. And of course, if you're on the internet and reading Twitter constantly, you see that stuff, but a lot of people don't even see some of those leaks because they just are watching these shows and trying to enjoy them. So leaks suck. I mean, it sucks for the developers, and certainly like Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog were devastated that that kind of trailer they'd worked so long on and wanted to surprise people with had leaked on the internet. So I feel really bad for the creative forces and the creators that had their moments kind of spoiled by those leaks, which kind of sucks. And that was, I guess that was a little different in that was really more an error that the trailer came out earlier versus sometimes the leak thing where that's someone that's actually getting information, right? From a source or something that's not authorized to sort of come out. So, yeah, it sucks. I mean, all these things happen with these big events. Inevitably, with the number of games and partners in these shows, there are going to be things that kind of leak out, or there are rumors also. There are oftentimes rumors that aren't true. Like there was someone last week that kept claiming that we were going to have the God of War Ragnarok release date in my show and the Elden Ring DLC news, which we didn't have. We never had planned to have any of those in our show, but people say, there's a rumor of this, and then when it doesn't happen, people are disappointed. So sometimes the rumor mongering leads to disappointment. Same thing with the Xbox show today. I think everyone's like, oh, we're going to get to see Avowed. We're going to get to see all these other first-party games. And really, I mean, the Xbox show is focused, as they said, very much on games coming out, through next June. So a lot of those big first-party games were not included in the show, even Hellblade 2 that we had at the Game Awards. So that's something definitely to sort of think about. But good question. Why is there a playable demo of Sonic Frontiers at SGF, but no footage of that gameplay shown online? It's a good question. You have to ask Sega. I know there's some embargoes around some of the information that was shared at Summer Game Fest, so I think press will be talking about it in the coming days. It just wasn't immediately able to be released. And sometimes people do that just to be fair to all the media, because Sonic was really busy and people were trying to figure out how to sort of do appointments across the whole weekend, so versus everyone racing immediately. So I think that information will come out. It'll just take a little bit of time. But yeah, you guys are very excited for the Sonic Frontiers news. And that was one where I couldn't even talk about it being playable at the show on Friday, and everyone was freaking out and saying, where was Sonic in my show on Thursday? And we just didn't have the right piece of content to show you guys on Thursday. But then obviously Friday, we all got to play it. And I don't think we're really allowed to talk about it yet, what it's like to play it, but it's pretty cool. I can't wait to talk more about it. Let's see. My shoes are so cool every time. Thank you very much. I'm wearing some crazy shoes today. Let me show these to you. These are kind of wild. Look at these. Aren't those fancy? Very summery, right? These are Adidas. Anyways, now I got to put my shoe back on. Think we'll see a new Scorn trailer this year. There was one this morning, Xbox Bethesda, and it's coming out in October, I think. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Do I think there will ever be a Red Dead Redemption 3? I would think, I don't know anything, but I would think Rockstar would revisit Red Dead Redemption at some point. It's such a legendary franchise. I feel like Rockstar really has two main franchises now, which is GTA and Red Dead. Max Payne is going to come back. Remedy's going to remake the original Max Payne games. That was announced a little while ago. I think that's further off. But yeah, I think it would be cool for them to do Red Dead. The question is, is that a fully online Red Dead, or is it another story game, or where is it? And I don't think it's coming out anytime soon, but yeah, I think eventually there would be something else in the Red Dead world. It's such a big franchise, it would make sense. Let's see. All right, next question is, does Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards take you the whole year to prepare? Storm Center asks. If not, what else are you working on? Great question. They really do take a lot of the year. I also work on the Gamescom Opening Night Live show, which is at the end of August, August 23rd this year. So we go to Europe and do that. But yeah, those three shows tend to take a lot of my time. I work sometimes on other projects. I'm working on another project that's not actually related really directly to gaming over the summer. Yeah, I sometimes do, other projects. Sometimes I write stories or apps. I did a story about the making of Half-Life Alyx with Valve a few years ago, and that took a big chunk of time. So, but yeah, generally, like the Game Awards really takes me the rest of the year. Like I will start tomorrow. I have meetings about the Game Awards this year for December. So that takes me, most of the year to put that together. So it's a good question. These shows take a long time to put together. All right. Why was there no date or even a year on Silksong? That's right. So Hollow Knight Silksong showed a new trailer this morning at the Xbox event. And I think there's a little confusion around that because Xbox said everything you see in the show is coming out within the next 12 months. And then on social after, Xbox kind of said, yeah, it's coming out in the next 12 months. And I think Team Cherry will comment on that when they're ready to comment on that. But yeah, there wasn't any date on their trailer. So, I mean, It would be amazing if it comes up by next June. Who knows? They're obviously making progress, but knowing that team, I don't know that they're going to commit to any date. And even if someone says something now, who knows if that will actually come true? So, good question. I'm just excited that the team is making progress and wants to show more to it. Let's see. Are you aware of the popularity you have in Spain? I'm not. Tell me more. Mertzerl. I've been to Spain. I like Spain. I was in Barcelona a few years ago. I went to Ibiza once. I love Spain. I wish I could be back there, but that's great. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you very much. Let's see. Next question. Gears of War Phoenix Collection needs to come out. Yeah, that was another one that was like a rumor that Microsoft was going to like remaster all the old Gears games, sort of like the Master Chief Collection. Don't know anything. I would assume at some point that makes a lot of sense that they would do something with that, but yeah, it was not announced today, so who knows? Doesn't mean that. I guess the other thing with the Xbox show is there could be stuff that's coming out post next June that they didn't show, right? And they're focused on kind of the near term, which is actually a really good thing. I like that they didn't sort of show a bunch of CG trailers for games 4 or 5 years out. Xbox has a lot of first party games stacked up that they've announced, from Fable to Perfect Dark to Everwild, to Avowed, to all these other games that are announced that they haven't really shown yet. So I think they need to kind of catch up with some of those first before they do the next batch of stuff. Am I hyped for Gamescom? Oh my God, that's right. That's the next thing. That'll be the end of August, August 23rd. We will be in Cologne, Germany for Gamescom opening out live. So yeah, we're just getting started on that show, trying to kind of figure out what we're doing. But yeah, I get excited about that. I'm excited to be back in person and see fans again. So much more to come on that show in the coming months. But let us rest a little bit, and we'll get back to you. But we're definitely working on it. Let's see. Next question. Not going to lie, gaming community are starting to get extremely annoying, constantly complaining. Yeah, look, this is a good question to talk about, or statement. That it is tough, and I read the social comments and stuff like that where people sort of have crazy expectations for things and want things announced that don't exist. And look, we just lived through that with our show on Thursday, where we had great viewership, we had record viewership of it, but still some people were disappointed, right? Because they wanted more from the show and more announcements. And it's difficult for me because I don't run a gaming company or a platform, so I don't even make games. If I'm, Phil Spencer, I can sometimes kind of, orient things a little bit to figure out what's going to work for my press conferences. I actually sometimes, get in there, have to kind of convince people to do things with us. So it's challenging to figure out the right lineup of stuff. And then, yeah, the community sort of, as you said, is always disappointed that they want more news or they want other games announced. So I just think of all the developers that did have games that were shown in any of the shows the past couple of weeks. And it's like, they deserve attention and respect. And sometimes when you kind of frown upon the show, you frown upon their games. So, yeah, it's a tough thing to sort of figure out, but I agree with you that sometimes, especially if you look in the echo chamber of some of the social media and Twitter and things like that, it does seem like people are sort of, disappointed. And even today with Xbox, I mean, there were a lot of people that loved the show and said it was great, but I saw lots of people in my feed too where it's like, I'm so disappointed and this and that, and where was Elder Scrolls 6 or something? And I'm like, they're not going to be talking about that, I'm sure, until Starfield ships. So people sometimes have crazy expectations for all this stuff. Next up, will you show new first-party games from Microsoft at the Game Awards? I have no idea yet. We showed Hellblade 2 last year, which was really cool. So we're not that far along with the Game Awards. We have some ideas of things that we might show from all companies that we're sort of starting to talk to folks. But to be totally honest with you, that stuff changes a lot in the months and sometimes even the weeks leading into the show. So yeah, it's really hard to say now, and certainly we're not really ready to start talking about anything yet in terms of what's going to happen at the Game Awards, and we sort of get into those conversations now with the game companies to figure out what's going to be sort of the best plan. But great question. Oh, interesting here. Would you prefer id Software to make a new Doom or a new Quake? Well, the last Doom was pretty cool. It might be interesting for them to do a new Quake, since it's been kind of a while since we've gotten kind of a, and Quake went in some interesting directions, like Quake 1 and Quake 2, and then, Quake 3 Arena became much more kind of multiplayer focused. So to go back to like an OG Quake could be really interesting, actually. I'd be really into that. nail gun and things like that. That would be cool. So yeah, we'll see. That'll be fun. I don't know what they're working on, and Bethesda didn't really make any major new announcements today. They've got a lot of teams, so they were obviously pretty focused on Redfall and Starfield, which are the two games that opened and closed the briefing last year. Flipped the order, but this year it opened with Redfall and closed with Starfield. Let's see. Next question. Was it confirmed that TMNT Shredder's Revenge will crossplay for all systems? That's a good question. Do you guys know in chat? I feel like yes, but I don't know that for a fact. Or I should know that for a fact, but I don't. So if you guys know, drop it in the chat and we'll figure out. Why no Kojima game? He said last year, I will be there next year. I guess you're asking maybe when he showed up at Xbox and he kind of just talked and didn't show his game. Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know if that's because he doesn't have it. Probably doesn't have it ready to show, and I don't know what state it's in, but that may be why we didn't see anything. And obviously, I think there was lots of rumors and news about him potentially partnering with Xbox. So I assume he probably decided, hey, better just kind of confirm it and get out of the way, and then work on the game. So at some point in the future, I'm sure we will see it. Let's see. Can you ask your Nintendo guy if they're doing anything this year? Yeah, I opened with this question because someone was asking about Nintendo's plans this year. And I think we just really have to sort of wait and see what Nintendo's going to do. I don't really know what their plan is or if they have I always have a plan. Nintendo likes to plan. But in terms of the exact timing and date and things like that, I think it's TBD on sort of what they're planning there. They've got, good lineup of stuff for later this year. Splatoon is coming out, which I'm sure at some point they'll share even more about that. Who knows? I know we're all waiting, and it's frustrating, right? Because we just want to know and put something in our calendar of like, this is the date. But in this new world order, State of Play got announced, I don't know, less than a week, I think, before it came out. The Xbox event got announced earlier. It was like 2 months earlier, in part because I think they were getting fans to these fan events in the different cities, so people had to plan for that. But when you're a digital event, you can kind of do whatever you want whenever you want to do it. So that's part of what kind of drives all of this. Let's see. Next question. Oh, here's an interesting question. Hi from Brazil. Do you want an event with announcements like SGF during the BGA in Brazil, which is I think the Brazil Games Show, right? I thought it was called BGS. I could be wrong. Yeah, I would love to do that, but part of the challenge is you can't do these shows too often or the news gets spread too thin. And, that's what a lot of people even said with Summer Game Fest last week. Some people were like, oh, you shouldn't even done the show. There wasn't enough big news to announce. I hear you, but I think June is a good time to do an event. We'll do the Gamescom one in August, but I think the Brazil show is in October if I'm not wrong. And it's hard then to sort of have another show in October. And then in December, we have expectations at the Game Awards. So I hear the point. I would love to do stuff, but I think, you say announcements, that's what then creates this expectation of all these big things being announced. Maybe it'd be fun to just go to Brazil and do a deep dive with a developer or go really in depth on one game. And that could be even more fun than having to do some big showcase that has all these expectations with it. So I'm mindful of not doing too many of these things because when we hype you guys up, you want to try and deliver. And look, some people thought we didn't deliver for Thursday enough new announcements. Even the Xbox show didn't really have that much kind of shock. The Kojima thing was probably the biggest news that they had. State of Play, mostly announced games. They announced Resident Evil Remake was probably the big thing that got announced at the Sony show. Final Fantasy was cool, but we'd seen that before. And then Xbox, Kojima was sort of the big thing. And they were all, Justin Roiland's new game from Squanch. There were a bunch of really interesting games kind of announced in the Xbox show, just not that sort of megaton level, sort of shocking new surprise. There's that new Koei Tecmo game. I'm actually curious. The one I was going to look up I think it was called, what was the name? It was like Cocoon, I think. Looked really interesting. I wanted to look that up afterwards. I didn't know who the developer was on that. I feel like it didn't even say who the developer was in the trailer. I was intrigued by that. So, yeah, really good question. Something to think about. All right, next question is, so now that E3 and SGF will be in person next year, do you have any idea the dates it will happen? Thanks for the question, Peaceful Haley. Summer Game Fest will be back in June next year. We've announced that much, and we're working all the details. I don't really know what E3's plan is. you go to their website now, it's supposed to see you in 2022. So I'm not sure kind of what's the plan is. They've said, yeah, publicly, as I said, saying they were going to do something in 2023. I don't know. We're moving ahead with our plans for Summer Game Fest. I'm very excited about it, and so I'm not sure if our timing will match E3 or be on top of E3 or be different. We just have to kind of work on what's going to work for us, and we're very excited. Things went really well this year with Summer Game Fest and the hands-on and the gameplay, so we're just going to keep kind of building on that. But it's a great question, and we'd love to have you out here in person if we can next year. Am I planning on doing a TGAs this year? Yes. The TGAs will be coming in December. We'll share more with you guys in the coming months about kind of our plans there. But yes, you can expect Game Awards back at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles in December. So yes, TGAs will happen this year and probably every year moving forward, as long as I'm still around and people still want it. And hopefully even after I'm not around, people will keep the Game Awards going, because it's a really important thing to me personally to keep it going. Let's see. Next question. When's my next book? You probably mean like the next Final Hours? I don't know. I'm not currently really writing a Final Hours. I've talked to some developers about the idea of doing Final Hours for their games, even games that are like 4 or 5 years off. We've had some early discussions. So nothing's kind of confirmed yet, and I'll keep you guys posted. But those projects take me months and months and months to make, sometimes 3 or 4 months. So it takes a while to do it. So nothing is kind of imminent at this point. But thank you for the question. Next question. What is Ubisoft planning this year? Showing nothing. Yeah, they're not showing anything during Summer Game Fest. I don't think they really had a presence in State of Play or Xbox, right? I assume if Nintendo does do something, I would imagine the Mario and Rabbids game at Sparks of Hope, I would imagine that might show up just because that's a pretty big game because it crosses over kind of Rabbids and Nintendo IP. I don't know that for a fact, but that could be one game that shows up. But yeah, I don't think Ubisoft is planning what they call the Forward in June. They might do one in the future. I'm not really sure what their plan is, but that's another example of a company that typically does something in this time period that didn't this year. But maybe it's a good thing that they didn't. Because it sort of allows them then to make something else bigger down the road. And the biggest challenge a lot of these companies face is doing all these events and then you guys being disappointed. I thought a lot about that even with Summer Game Fest, where some people wanted more announcements. And I'm like, well, what do we do? Do we not do the show? And things change around sometimes with our show. We had a couple announcements that got delayed for our show this year, which is unfortunate, but you have to support the developers and their choices. But it definitely impacts the sentiment sometimes around the show. So yeah, it's a great question. All right, let's see. I'm going to go and, just to be fair, I'm going to grab some questions from YouTube chat. But I'll be back, guys. Don't worry, on Twitter. Let's see here. All right. Oh, my God. The YouTube chat's moving quickly. Crash Bandicoot. No Crash Bandicoot announcements this weekend, it looks like. Sorry, guys. Do I know anything about Payday 3? No. Not really. I think we announced that it was in development last year, right? But I have not been able to get into that. Mr. Macy Juz asks, will God of War Ragnarok be released this year? If so, do you think it will come out? Yeah, I mean, I think the plan is that it's going to be out this year. That's what Sony sort of communicated. People get nervous because I haven't seen footage and I don't know what the date is. So yeah, I don't know. The cycle on these games sometimes gets a little bit shorter, and that the teams are so busy building the games, they don't have a ton of time to, do demos and things like that around it. So stay tuned. I don't know. Hopefully it'll come out this year. I'm sure it could slip. I mean, God of War games, I think almost every God of War game has always come out in March. So not to say that this one will, but I think that's the other thing, is like it could end up being in the first quarter of next year. But so far, everything that we've heard is that it's still coming this year, and they're kind of focused on delivering it this year. And when will they share more? I don't know. Maybe when they're fully confident they know the date, or they have a new demo to show. It's funny because people last week for my show were like, "You're going to show the first gameplay of God of War," and I'm like, well, there was a trailer that came out, I don't know when it was, last year at some point, where they did show the first gameplay. I thought in that sort of trailer. So there's some stuff out there, but obviously we want more, and I can't wait to play that game. I was a massive fan of the last God of War, which went on to win Game of the Year at the Game Awards. So great question. MP wants to know why the lack of JRPGs in SGF and the Game Awards. Well, SGF, I think it's just a function of kind of what's available to us and what's the right fit. We did, the One Piece Odyssey thing we did. It just depends on the game. I'm curious which games you'd like to see us do more. And then JRPGs at TGA, it's really just depends on what games are available to us and pitched to us for announcements and things like that. So we'd love to be pitched more JRPG announcements and certainly open to thinking about it. All right, I'm going to take a couple more on YouTube here. What do I think of Persona coming to Xbox? Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. It's great that it's coming to Xbox. It's an amazing franchise. I'm glad that more people get to play it. I think the trend generally is that everything sort of ends up going everywhere now eventually. So yeah, it's amazing for, Persona gets to be experienced by a whole new crowd. I remember when we did the Joker reveal for Smash Brothers, that was a big moment, with Nintendo and showed kind of, how huge the fan base is for Persona. So, yeah, I'd love to do more with Persona, and I think it's awesome that it's coming to Game Pass also, right? That's great. It's not just coming to Xbox, coming to Game Pass, which will be really big. So, yeah, I think that's a really cool announcement for those guys. Sekrin wants to know, SGF airtime is very decent for the European gamers and viewers. Will TGA be the same time? No, TGA will end up being later in the day just because it's a big live event, award show. It's kind of hard to do that early in the day and have everyone all kind of dressed up and ready to go for that. So it'll be later in the afternoon. And Gamescom Opening Night Live will be earlier in the day if you're in the United States because we do that in the evening in Germany. So great question. I mean, it's something we think about how to sort of optimize the show for the world, and it's hard to do in a way that works for everybody. So I get the point, and I know sometimes Game Awards is the middle of the night for some of you guys in Europe, and I'm sorry about that. It's just the nature of sort of how we have to do the event, and it's also good for people in Asia that's a little bit later because it's their next morning, where something like Summer Game Fest is really tough for them because that's, I think, at like 3 a.m. or something in China. So there's never a perfect time, but I appreciate the question, which is great. All right, I'm going to switch back to the Twitch chat now. Featured chat. Do I think at this point Game Pass has a monopoly on the industry? No, but I think it's interesting to think about, where they're going to go with Game Pass in future years and, how many games they're going to sign. And it's great, I think, value for consumers. I don't think they have necessarily a monopoly, but it's a lot of value. And at some point, yes, I think their bet is that people are going to say, wow, there's so much value there. I got to make sure I'm a subscriber, which is a good thing. But you're right. At some point, there's a larger question, I think, of is it healthy for the industry, for the developers sometimes? To be on something like Game Pass, and do they make less money or more money? Sometimes it's a great way to discover games. The Guardians of the Galaxy game, the developers talked a lot about that maybe a month or two ago, where it was paid for as a separate game, and then when it became part of Game Pass, so many more people discovered that game, which was awesome, and they started engaging with it. So I think there's a lot of positive aspects to Game Pass, but some of the negative ones are that people may not make as much money as a developer if they're sort of taking a game that's normally $40 and making it on Game Pass. It all just comes down to the math and the finances of it all, but it's definitely something that I think Microsoft is thinking about, and they're trying to build the Netflix of gaming with a lot of different options. And you probably even saw today they made an announcement about Riot, and a lot of the Riot games are going to have special added sort of bonuses and unlocks for Game Pass members on PC. A lot of people, that was a little confusing announcement because I think people were kind of asking me afterwards, like, oh, so does that mean Valorant's coming to Xbox and League of Legends? And from what I understand, it was more of an announcement for PC and mobile around Game Pass versus being something that really impacts kind of Xbox. I mean, obviously, Xbox gamers play on PC and play on mobile phones, so there's value there. But I think it's more of a PC answer for computers versus Xbox. But that was something that definitely kind of, I wasn't fully clear when they were doing the press conference earlier today. So that was it's a good question that somebody brought up. All right, on to the next question. More questions. Do you know something about Wolfenstein 3? I don't. That's why I think there were a lot of things people were rumored, and there's a big rumor that the Indiana Jones game was somehow going to be showcased at the event today. It wasn't, but that was like kind of a rumor that the game's been announced, but they've never really showcased it before. So that was another one that was talked about. So yeah, there's always conversations about these things, but you get what you get, and hopefully you're happy with at least some of the stuff that you guys got there. Will I be featured again in the next Kojima game? I have absolutely no idea. I'm not expecting that by any means. I wasn't expecting the last one, so who knows what the future holds. Let's see. Next question. There's an Indiana Jones game. Yeah, I think it was announced a little while ago. Machine Games, I believe, is making it, and there was a teaser trailer of it. No real information on what it is, but excited about that. And the new movie's coming out next summer, I think. It's like next June or July, I think. It's pretty good. Next question. Oh, here's an interesting topic to talk about. Someone said, will you interview the devs a separate stream next year? And this is something that we think a lot about with our show. I like having some context around the trailers and having a bit of a show. I don't, just as a personal preference, and maybe we differ on this, but I don't love just a reel of a timeline of trailers all put together. I like having a little bit of personality and some live stuff. And it's great, like someone like Glenn Schofield, who made Callisto Protocol. He's an amazing creative dude, and I'm so glad we had him on the show. And you guys can get to know him and know some of these developers and expose them. And I think that's really important to me versus just sort of everyone kind of, hiding behind the game footage. So, we'll see sort of what happens. But, oh, wait, I didn't change my question. Sorry. You're still asking me. There you go. So I don't know. I don't love the idea of like separating everything out. Some people don't like the interviews. Some people really like them in the show. And it's the right balance of things. But I was glad we had some folks there to sort of be on set and be part of it. And whether it was Megan from Digital Extremes or Maya from Studio MDHR with Cuphead, I was really happy that we had more developers on stage. So again, that's just my take. You may differ. Let's see. Okay, here's another one that builds on that. I missed the E3 live stuff that you or IGN or GameSpot would do, bringing devs in for interviews and demos. And yeah, we used to do full day things with 50 interviews and developers coming by that we haven't done. And I would love to get back to that at some point. There are fewer games now, right? And I think we got to find like a new model or a new way to go about it. But I love the idea of doing that and going back and doing kind of a day-long show. So I hope I hope in the future that we'll be able to do that. Let's see. Oh, my Batman is not meant as a tease. That's a Batarang that I got from Rocksteady many years ago. I think I'm for the first Arkham game in like 2008 or something like that. So no, we're not teasing any new news there. But I like your thinking. Let's see. These are some good questions. Cool. Okay, here we go. This is a pre-recording? No, I'm really here live. What are you saying? Yeah, no, this is a live show. It's not pre-recording. I just got back from the Xbox show. Okay. Do you think it's a coincidence, Geoff, that there are a lot of space games? This is something that I think is a fair point, that we had a lot of sci-fi space stuff. We had Routine, we had Callisto Protocol, we had Fort Solis, probably a few others that were kind of space-themed games. And that's just kind of what's being made right now. There are lots of other games. If you look at our full... Sorry. Yeah, it's been a long weekend. Sorry. You look at sort of all the games that we showcased. There was a lot of variety across the show, but yes, I agree that we had a lot of space stuff kind of in the early parts of the game. So certainly a fair point. What can you tell us about the Xbox Extended Tuesday event? Well, from what I know, it's not a second press conference with a ton of new announcements in there. I think it's more talks with developers of some of the games that you saw. So I'm just making this up, but maybe the Cocoon game that I was just talking about that I thought looked cool. Maybe we'll meet the developer there, hear more about that game. So maybe I think there'll be some extra footage of some games and maybe some new trailers and things like that. But no, I don't think it's where they're going to be announcing new projects inside that. I could be wrong. I'm not involved in it, and other people may tell me that that's incorrect. But I think it's a level set. I think it's more kind of an extended version of the news from this show that they'll talk about some more, versus being kind of a completely new, second press conference, or someone said, we're eating good, we're getting 2 press conferences, and I don't think that's fully correct. What do I think of people being negative regarding the games shown? Well, it depends. If you're talking about kind of my show, it's It's okay, honestly. Like every show is not going to be perfect, and I think it's really important that you kind of show up and do something every year and do the best you can. And we'll be back next year and doing it again and building on that. So it sort of depends on the circumstance and what's available to you. But I agree that people wanted kind of more news in some of these shows. So yeah, it's just there are always like bad rumors, and we suffer from that because people are like, oh, Hideo Kojima's going to show up on Geoff's show on Thursday, and he didn't, and there's going to be this game announced or that game announced. So it's really hard sometimes to meet everyone's expectations and set expectations accordingly. And I think it's still important that we sort of do this show and this showcase, and I think there are lots of developers that are so thankful and happy that you guys watched in record numbers. So it's worth it, or we're going to keep doing it. We just have to sort of take the feedback in mind and hope that we can find a way to satisfy everyone in the future. Lots of good questions. Hold on. Okay. Geckeritz, I butchered that. Sorry, man. Wants to know any plans to better consolidate the hodgepodge of different shows that popped up in the wake of E3 falling apart into a more coherent and easier to follow show. Yeah, I think things have gotten better. Remember the first year Summer Game Fest, it was like 4 months of stuff. Now we're down to really kind of a week or two of things. It would be great. I just think when you're in a digital world, you can spread things out a little bit. And it used to be at E3, we had 3 or 4 press conferences a day because people physically could only be in LA for a certain number of days due to hotels and things like that. And we would actually move from one venue to the next. And when I used to do the YouTube Live at E3 show or the TV show, we would, go through 4 or 5 press conferences in a day. It was pretty cool and exciting. But now I think companies look at it and say, well, that's overwhelming. We'd rather have our own day to own the news. We don't want to compete with someone else's news. And when that happens, it means people spread out a little bit. And it's hard to convince them to sort of, the whole is greater than the parts sometimes of doing everything together. But I think we're getting better at it. This year we had the State of Play and the Xbox show within a week of each other. Again, Nintendo's not really involved officially in Summer Game Fest, so I don't know what their plans are, where that's going to land. But I would love things to be a little more compact, and I think we're getting better every year. So just let's see what next year brings. But great question. Hold on a second. More questions here. You guys are going nuts, and I got to go in a minute. But let's go. Okay. Next question is, do you think Summer Game Fest as a whole will change next year with E3 scheduled to come back? Developer conferences and the Sony Xbox showcases were part of Summer Game Fest this year. Will that significantly different next year? I have no idea. We're just thinking about it. I was just talking to Phil Spencer earlier today about sort of how this is all going to work in future years, and we'll see. I don't know exactly what E3 is going to be or what it's not going to be, and we'll have to see. But we're very happy with what I do with my show and the Play Days event we did and how that's all going to play out. So that's all going to continue. And how that interfaces or not with E3 or whatever E3 might or might not be, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about it because we're really happy with sort of what we're doing. And if it makes sense to have those conversations and figure out some kind of alliance or, something, we can see. But I don't know what E3 is. You said, is it a consumer show? Is it a trade show? Is it a media show? We need some answers from them so we can understand how to respond to it. But it's a great question. Let's see. Here's a Game Awards question. At last year's Game Awards, it felt like a large majority of the awards were pushed off to the side in favor of advertisers. Do you get concerned over the integrity of video game award shows? Sure, we absolutely do. But we also have to pay for the show, and we have to figure out kind of the right balance. And, just like people sometimes get upset that awards get pushed to the side because of world premieres, and it's really more that versus the advertising. All our research and everything we talk to is people want more game announcements and world premieres in the show, generally, than awards. So that's what sometimes kind of de-emphasizes the awards a little bit. We still try and balance it, and we don't always get it right. So there could be years where, we have too many awards, we don't have enough, and it's like, part of the thing is honestly COVID has also impacted that the past few years about who's even available to accept their award, which has impacted things. So it's a good question and something we definitely think about. All right, guys, I unfortunately got to bounce, but I will be back again to talk more about Summer Game Fest. And thank you so much for watching. There's lots more to come. I shouldn't say that. There's not lots more to come. There's some stuff to come, like the Capcom Showcase tomorrow. I hope you guys get to tune in and check that out. I'm going to head over and do a Twitter Spaces in a little bit, too, to chat about Summer Game Fest. So if you guys are on my Twitter, at Geoff Keighley. Join me over there. I'll post a link right now. Actually, to Spaces that I'm going to do in probably about 15 or 20 minutes, and we'll go more through all this on Twitter Spaces as well. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching Summer Game Fest. We're back next year, and we got lots more with Gamescom Open Night Live in August and the Game Awards in December. So stay tuned for more. See you guys. Thanks so much. Talk soon.